The Auto-Chinon 55mm f1.7 was the standard lens supplied with the Chinon CS, a 35mm SLR that was made in Japan and released in the mid-1970s. Chinon named this camera model the CS, which was short for Chinon screw. The name was based on the new line of lenses that Chinon started producing that all had M42 or universal screw mount. In the 1980s, this lens was replaced by the multi-coated version, which had improved coatings for better flare resistance. However, today we're talking about the early single-coated version. The aperture of this lens ranges from f1.7 to f16 with click stops in between. It accepts filters with 52mm diameter. The diaphragm is made of 6 rounded aperture blades. On the back, this lens has M42 mount. I use just a cheap M42 to NEX adapter so I can adapt this lens to my Sony camera. Focus throw is a bit long, approximately 310 degrees. This lens weighs 210 grams. Minimum focusing distance from your subject to your film plane or sensor is 50 centimeters. The Auto-Chinon 55mm f1.7 is a humble little lens that produces wonderful images again and again. Even though it lacks a fancy brand name, it consistently delivers pleasing results. It might not win any contests in sharpness when shot wide open, even though it's sharp enough at f1.7, but what it lacks in that department, it makes up for it with its very unique out-of-focus blur. The blur that this lens produces has a certain special quality that can be described as painterly and dreamy. There's just something very pleasing about the out-of-focus rendering of this lens, and I would say that it's perhaps its best feature and one of the main reasons why I enjoy shooting with it. Color rendition of this Chinon is also quite nice with natural tones and good contrast. As I mentioned earlier, this lens is a tiny bit soft when shot wide open, but by f2.8 is sharp all over and reaches peak performance by f5.6. At that point, images look super sharp even when examined at 100% magnification. The build quality of this Chinon lens is truly phenomenal. It is made entirely out of metal, it is compact and lightweight, and it has incredibly smooth focusing helicoid, which is still as smooth as butter 44 years after its production. Because this lens is single coated, it's advisable to use it with a lens hood to avoid any unwanted ghosting or flare, and if you shoot straight into the sun, you can expect rainbow-like flares to appear. But this only happens in extreme situations, and for the most part you won't have any issues. There is a bit of vignetting when you shoot this lens wide open, but that is easily corrected in post. So at the end of the day, this is a compact and extremely well-built lens that creates wonderful background blur, and on top of that can be acquired very cheaply. You can pick one up for around $30 to $40. If you want a nifty 50 that will give you that unique rendering that vintage lenses are known for, then check out the Auto-Chinon 55mm f1.7. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time here at Vintage Optics.